Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Hello, and welcome to Tea Time Theology. I'm your host, Mariah Wakande, and today's guests, we have Pastor Linda Forsberg and Orville Forbes. Welcome, Linda and Orville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I wanted to ask you, did you prepare a quote that you kind of live your life by?
I did. One immediately came to mind when I got your email, and it's a quote that we use every week at Church Beyond the Walls before we head down to Burnside Park, where we gather for worship. At this point, we've completed our prep time, either our food when it's non-COVID times, we actually bring food, or during COVID, we bring care packages. So we're all prepared, we're ready to go. And we always say a prayer before we go down, but I always preface it by sharing a quote that I came up with a few years ago, and it's my daily prayer now every time I leave my home. And we always say it right before we go down to the park. And it's simply this. Oh God, may I see you in all I encounter this day, and may I reflect you to all I encounter. Amen. Or we do it when we're in a group, we do it in the plural. May we see you, O God, or Christ, in all we encounter, and reflect you to all we encounter. Amen.
Amen.
It really changes the way or sets the tone, I feel, for how we see everyone. Because sometimes you see some people who are, strung out on drugs, for example, and can you still really see Christ in that person? Or you see someone being really belligerent to other people, or can you still see Christ in that person? And so I think it's really an important pause before we head down. Orville, what do you think? Because he's so used to this too.
Yeah. The verse is said before we go to a week. It put us in the frame of mind to look for Christ or to see Christ in everybody we encounter. As I said before, not care what the situation is, you can see Christ in. The person is being disruptive, as well also, you can see Christ in that person. And you can also take the good with the bad.
Yes.
I love that. And especially, in these times where it feels like anything anyone says or does is taken with such weight and with such offense, that reminder to not only see Christ, to see God in all that you see, but to also reflect in all that you do. It's both being thankful and being willing to reach out that hand of understanding. And it's also, a reminder to yourself to try to be your best self and be the person that God inspires you to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's beautiful. You both are part of an organization called Church Beyond the Walls. And, I think we should just jump right in and talk about what is it and how was it formed?
Orville, do you want to go first? I don't
Go ahead
want
first. You can go ahead. Ladies first. Go ahead, Pastor Linda.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So Church Beyond the Walls was founded about 8 years ago. It came out of the Occupy Providence movement. So if you remember the Occupy Wall Street movement, and then cities around the country kind of took off from that and had Occupy Philadelphia, Occupy, Providence in our case. And so people from all different walks of life literally camped out in Burnside Park, where we now gather for worship. And you had people protesting all of the abuses from the banking industry, when they had they foreclosed on so many people's homes, and they had given all those bad loans to people who really couldn't afford to pay them. And then, really just exacerbated a crisis that already existed. And so this resulted in many, many people losing their homes and an increase in those experiencing homelessness. So you had people from churches who agreed with this, who wanted to sort of protest and make a statement. You had a lot of students who agreed with this, a lot of social justice activists, a lot of people who were experiencing homelessness and live outside, and were happy that finally people were becoming more aware of this issue and joining them in their protest. So that's kind of what happened. And this little Episcopal church of the Epiphany in Rumford, Rhode Island, decided to send a group down there. And at that point, their two pastors were Jennifer Padrick and
Edmund Harris.
I'm having a little, yes. Edmund
Harris.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Father Edmund, I just always think of. And so they brought a little red wagon, a red flyer wagon with hot coffee, sandwiches, socks, because people camping outside always need clean, dry socks, and Holy Communion. And so that's how it began. And then weekly, a community would kind of form and wait for them to come with their little red wagon of supplies. And then months later, when Occupy Providence packed up and, got back to their lives, those who were living still in the park or living outdoors, those experiencing homelessness, asked if the folks from Epiphany could still continue to come. And so they agreed. And that's how it began. And it's been going on for 8 years now. And until COVID, we had never missed a single Saturday, no matter the weather.
That's great. And so, Orville, maybe you can speak first. How did each of you get involved?
Oh, I get involved by accident. One of a member of my church at the time was going.
So watch out.
Yeah. A member of my church was going to as to be a deacon, the sermon program, and that Saturday he couldn't make it down there. So he called me and said, "Oh, I need a favor." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Can you go down to Church Beyond the Walls?" I said, "What's that?" I didn't know what Church Beyond the Walls was. I said, "Well, do you know this person?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, they're doing a program in the park, in Burnside Park." I said, "Can you bring some eggs down?" So I said, "Sure, I can do that." So I went down with the eggs and enjoyed the service. and enjoy it and stuff. And I said, okay. So the following week I went back and bring some more eggs. And Jennifer Hospital, oh, do you mind coming every week and helping us? I said, sure, I will come. So I went down and got helping. And she called me. No, before the RS called me, I said, oh, can you come over and help us make sandwiches? I said, well, I don't know if I can because it's so far away. And I said, sure, I'll come over. So I went over and I started to help them. And so I've been involved ever since.
And how many years was that?
That's 7.5 years ago.
Oh, wow. So you've been there almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
And how about you, Linda? How do you find Church
He's
Beyond
been
Walls?
there a little longer than I have, actually. So I have been involved, I think, for 7 years now. I have a friend who is a lot younger than I, and I mentored her. I was her youth leader. And she grew up and became a pastor and started a street church in Northampton, Mass. Cathedral in the Night. She's Pastor Stephanie Smith. And so we were trying to support her ministry from afar, which we did. And then someone in my church that I pastor, First Lutheran Church, said, well, it's too bad there's nothing like this closer to us. And that very weekend, there was an article in the Providence Journal about Church Beyond the Walls. So when we discovered there is something just like this closer to us, I went down right the week after that article came out, and introduced myself and met Father Edmund and had lunch, and we started jumping in and getting involved, a whole group from First Lutheran. And then 5 years ago, well, Edmund left. Shortly after I started getting involved, he left and moved to Seattle. And another guy, Waylon Whitley, who'd been the music minister, got involved. And he left after a year and a half and asked if I would be interested. So I'd been a volunteer, for a couple of years at that point. And now I've been the missioner it'll be 5 years.
That's amazing. And, you've kind of started to hint at some of the things that you do. You gather in Burnside Park. It sounds like you make sandwiches and maybe breakfasts. Can you talk about some of the other activities that you do, maybe regular ones, and then also specific one-off events?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to begin, Orville?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. As I said, we don't do breakfast. We do and we're not a feeding ministry. We do a ministry, and for our coffee hour, in more lesser steps, we serve in the people in the park. We turn our halter into a feeding table. So that's one thing we do. We also try to provide the needs, because people are almost in the park, we provide the needs with socks and hats and gloves, and sometimes coats, because a lot of them out there and don't have even a coat to wear in winter. So we try to provide them with those type of events. But we do also in programs. We do, as Pastor Linda led a Bible study. We do a book club. We do different type of ministry. We do try to work with social justice, talk about social justice and so forth, because a lot of our people struggle through these programs. And so we try to let them know that, yes, because although you're in this program, you're in this situation, these people still love you, and we still here to serve you. And whatever we can serve them, we try to serve them. Pastor Linda?
Sure. Yeah. So in addition to the weekly, as Orville said, we're first and foremost a worshiping community. But we and our meal that we serve is sort of just like every church has a coffee hour. So we just have a more substantial time of hospitality, and it's a meal. But we also have weekly Bible study. And during the decent weather, we have it in our community garden. We have a community garden at Roger Williams Park near the zoo. And the idea behind that is to actually teach people who are members of our community about gardening and healthy eating and healthy food choices, and help them to learn how to produce food, etc. So that's one of our ministries. And the Bible study is really a way to try to apply our faith on a daily basis to our lives and to what we're going to. So it's, we talk about the situations in our lives and how the Bible can give us strength and encouragement. So it's very kind of applied to daily living. And then, as Orville said, we also have periodic classes. Like we've done in the last few years, we've done a lot of anti-racism work. We have using program through the Rhode Island State Council of Churches, and we've have several people who've been through that anti-racism training, and even a few who've gone through the facilitators training. We also have a partnership with the Rhode Island, with the Interfaith Counseling Center, because mental health issues are big and everywhere, but in our community particularly. And so we actually got a grant from Episcopal Charities to help the mental health piece, to help the counseling piece of our ministry, because we really have a lot of people who benefit from having that mental health help. We have periodic midweek gatherings around different topics like Advent or Lent, or right now we just had a book study on Henry Nouwen's work, The Wounded Healer. So various ongoing things throughout the week, to keep people connected and growing in their faith, and to give them daily strength.
And are these events mostly at Burnside Park?
Some of the worship always is. The Bible study usually is at the community garden in Roger Williams Park. Now that the gardening season has kind of come to an end, usually we meet inside at the diocese. The diocese gives us a room to meet in. And all of our gatherings, we try to include food because many of our people are very food insecure. But right now, we're not allowed to do indoor gatherings, so we're going to use some outside space at the diocese that has sort of a little bit of shelter from the weather, just some sides and overhead, but is open to the weather. So yes, we do. And I've even met people in the past, pre-COVID. We at one point had some gatherings at like Dunkin' Donuts or, public places where people gathered anyway downtown.
And who would you say are the main groups of people that you serve or that you interact with a lot through this type of ministry?
Why don't you start, Orville?
I think we meet we were a lot of street people. When I say street people, some of them they love to be on the street. Some I don't say they're homeless because some are sheltered, but I love to be out on the street because that's feel comfortable, and that's one of most of the people meet. We have people from different denominations. We have different churches come out and support us. And, so we have a variety of people in there, non-denomination. So we just try to minister to whoever who come to the park and Saturdays, and we're there on Saturdays. Our Bible study is also open to anybody who feel wanted to discuss what's going on in their life, or wanted to learn more about the Bible, or how to live a Christian life. Pastor Linda?
I would say that this is Church Beyond the Walls is, to me, it's the most, it's the closest thing, Dr. Martin Luther King talked about the beloved community. And to me, it's the closest thing I glimpsed to that. I always call it our beloved community at Church Beyond the Walls, because it's the most diverse community I've ever been a part of. We truly do have people from all walks of life. Like, we have people who are living in poverty and homelessness, who live in that park. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have people extremely highly educated and wealthy who feel they want to support a ministry like Church Beyond the Walls, and who are fabulous, give generously of their time and of their financial support and of their presence, and everything in between, so that's what I'd say I most love. And religiously, we, everyone's welcome, of various faith traditions. In terms of LGBTQ persons, everyone's welcome. Racially, we have a lot of diversity, economically, educationally, you name it. I mean, we've got it all. And that's a beautiful thing to me. I just love that.
Yeah, it really does sound like people from all walks of life are coming together in giving and receiving services, whether that be through the ministry service that happens at Burnside Park, or the Bible study, other events. So it sounds really lovely, and like we need more of it. And it makes a lot of sense how it could just sneak up on you, Orville, and then all of a sudden you've been doing it for 7.5 years. Speaking of people from all different walks of life and different churches, I was wondering if each of you could talk about your personal faith and how you came to find God and be in the church that you are now, and how that informs your life.
Well, I grew up in the Anglican Church. It was just, in the Caribbean, it's called the Anglican Church. In England, it's called the Church of England. And here it's called Episcopal Church. So I pretty much grew up in the Anglican Church, and I come here into the U.S. So when I get to the U.S., I couldn't find an Anglican Church, and I found out Episcopal Church. So I joined the Episcopal Church here. Before I joined the Episcopal Church, I visited several other denominations, and I've come back to my home where I feel comfortable in the Episcopal Church. In the church I'm in worshiping at right now is the Church of the Transfiguration. And I stumbled upon the Church of the Transfiguration also by chance. I was living in Providence for a while, and I leave out to Providence and I live in Cranston. And when I come to Cranston, I visit the next Episcopal Church, because when I was living in Hartford, I was in worship at the Trinity in Hartford. And I said, okay, let's try the Trinity Church here in Cranston. And I went there a couple of times. I never feel welcome, never feel at home. And a couple of times I went to All Saints in Providence. And one Sunday morning, I was like to go to church at All Saints in Providence. And I said, listen, there's a church right here next door to me. So I stopped in. And when I stopped in there, I was feel welcome. And there was two young ladies, well, as I said, young lady, there was two ladies ushering, Audrey Rose and Sue Berkeley. And I said, encouraged me to welcome me and such forth. And we're leaving. I said, oh, you're going to join us for coffee hour? I said, no, because I've other plans, so I'm not going to stay today. So, okay, we'll see you next time. I said, okay, we'll come back. And I went back 2 weeks later, and one of the ladies was ushering, the other one was greeting, and I said, oh, you come back. And they give me a sort of warm welcome and started to talk to me and introduce me to everybody like they know me forever. And I've been feel welcome there. I've been there now since 2006. I hold several different positions in on the vestry. And, I feel like my home. And the Church of Transfiguration is pretty much a lot like Church Beyond the Walls in the sense that we do a lot of outreach in worship, in indoor, outdoor. We do programs that involve our in community. We do yard sale, and we do blessed animals. We do outdoor fairs to get the kids in the neighborhood come out and do stuff, petting zoo and such forth. And so we do food closet, and we do a thrift shop that pretty much everything is a quarter. And so we do that thing that encourage people in the community and people who don't have the necessary needs that most everybody else have can come and enjoy themselves. And as I said, we are a very diverse ministry there because I know a very small parish. We have an average attendance of approximately 39 people, but a very busy, very outgoing group of people, and very, everybody's very much get involved and do a lot for the community. So I just enjoy the Episcopal Church. I enjoy different denominations, so that, although because I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and funny thing about Episcopal Church, and what I grew up in, it was my godfather at the time was the minister, and so it was pretty much, it forced me to be in ministry. But I think, and my godfather, he was the type of person, although he was an Anglican priest, he still teach outside in the ministry, outside in Anglican school, because he was that type of person. He was just a man of faith. So I learned to be a person of faith. And, first time I used to say I'm not a Christian, but I'm a person of faith. But, because I just have the faith and have the love of God. And whatever I think I do because of the love of God, and try to, hopefully everybody see Christ in me, whatever I do, and not in what I say. Because you can go there and keep on talking about God and so on, but you have to live the life, and that's what I try to do.
And what about you, Linda?
So I grew up in Rhode Island and in a Lutheran church, which today it's still there. It's St. Paul's Lutheran Church on Elmwood Avenue in South Providence. And that is Lutheran, but it's the very strict branch of the Lutheran Church called the Missouri Synod, which is not where I'm at all. It's they still do not ordain women, for example. So when I was 15, I felt called to be a pastor. And so I had to leave that branch of the Lutheran Church in order to become a pastor. I'd say growing up, my parents were a very deep influence on me because they really lived their faith. And that made a huge impression on me, like what Orville was saying. They didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk. And that made a big impact on me as a young person. And then when I went to college, I went to Brown, as you know, we're both alums, right, of Brown.
Yep.
And at Brown, interestingly, I went to Catholic Mass every day because I wanted something daily. And the Catholic Church was the only one that offered daily Mass. And I got really involved with the Catholic community. And then went to Harvard Divinity, which was to be, you had a school of all the world's religions, a center for world religions at Harvard. So I would go to worship with people who were Hindu and Buddhist and Muslim and Jewish, and so that really was a beautiful experience, challenging and beautiful at the same time. And at Harvard Divinity, I also got very involved in the worship services of a group called Harambe, which was the African American student group had this worship, and I just loved it. And they let this white young woman come to their worship, and that was every week, and that's where I really grew to love like a lot of the African American spirituals and that style of preaching and the Black church, and so that all these influences come together, I think, and affect us as time goes on. And then my first church was in rural Pennsylvania, so that was a
wow,
total culture shock.
Different from Black church.
Dairy farmland, Pennsylvania, but still friends with folks from that church too, and then ended up back in Rhode Island to do doctoral work and but I love, as you can see, in all areas of my life, I love like diversity and just people of various backgrounds and just walks of life. I think it expands us and enriches us. And to me, that's what the reign of God is all about and looks like. It's all kinds of people working together,
Yeah, I totally agree. And, that kind of brings us back into Church Beyond Walls, because you have people from all different kinds of churches and parishes, and you have people who are not connected to the church at all. And they're coming together, not only to worship, not only to be a part of a community, but to offer services to people in need. So I was hoping we can talk a little bit about, who is in need, what do they need, and especially during these pandemic times, how have these communities who have been, already so regularly and not even thought of as being marginalized in the ways that they are, how have you seen these communities, these needs evolve, and how has Church Beyond Walls tried their best to address these?
That's what you're going to take it.
Go ahead, Orville.
No, this one. I think this one fit you more. Well, from my point of view, we do have a lot of people who needs are from all different needs they have. We have people who need of shelter, need of homes. We have people who just need spiritual guidance. We have people who just need someone there to speak with because of their their substance abuse, and they just need someone to be there and to accept them as where they are and to be able to speak with them and to give them whatever guidance that they need. We also have people who are in need financially, and we don't have a lot of money to give them, but we do whatever we can to support them. Pastor Linda go out of her way several times to support these people. I can give you a story. We was there once Saturday morning. We have a Saturday afternoon. We have a service, and it was cold, and there was a young lady out there without shoes, and Pastor Linda take her shoes off and give it to the young lady, and walk back to the diocese with those shoes on. So that type of service we are. That's the type of person Pastor Linda is. And when people come out and say in need and whatever way we can help them, we try and to help them. And Pastor Linda have more stories and more how she go out and how in Church Beyond the Walls able to help in different individuals and such forth. But we try whatever we can do, not just to feed them in physically and spiritually, but emotionally also.
Yes.
And that's the need mostly. They need a lot of emotional
In our self-description, we say something like feeding people spiritually and physically on the streets of Providence week after week. And I think it really is both. Like our community definitely has more physical needs than your average community. We have people who literally do not have a roof over their head, and who are wondering where their next meal is going to come from. We also have, a higher amount, I would say, of substance abuse, mental health issues. And a big thing that I have discovered is we have a huge percentage of people who've experienced trauma in their lives. And that is like off the charts in our community. And so I think that that's almost like a root cause of a lot of the other, like of the substance abuse or even the fact that they're experiencing homelessness. They've experienced trauma on some level. Many people have, been victims of violence, violent crime. Many have lost children, sometimes in very violent, horrific ways. It's always horrific, but, so there's this level of trauma that's huge in our community. And so I'd almost say that even greater than the physical needs are the emotional and spiritual needs. And I feel like a lot of times people just want to be part of a community where they feel they're not alone. That's almost like the biggest need, I feel. And COVID has, of course, exacerbated that problem because so many people feel isolated and feel deeply alone. So those physical material needs have gotten worse, of course, also. But it's that deep hunger for, to be part of a place where you belong. Years ago, when I first came on, we surveyed our community and we said, what does Church Beyond the Walls mean to you? And the biggest answer we got, the most common answer we got was, you are the one thing in my life I feel I can count on. And that really hit home, that we show up week after week after week. We just show up and we are community. Like people know each other's names. People care for each other. So I'd say that's like the biggest thing. Yes, we've helped people move from being unhoused to being housed. Yes, we've helped pay rent. Yes, we've helped pay medical expenses and done funerals for folks and, helped get people into rehab treatments and get counseling needs met and all of that. But I'd say it's just that being there consistently and caring, that is the biggest thing.
And accept them to who they are, the way they are, and I feel comfortable with that. That we accept them, okay, where they are and what they look like.
I think that's really beautiful. In my line of work, I do HIV research in sub-Saharan Africa. and, right now all of my work is in South Africa, and I work with people who use drugs, people who use violence, and people who experience violence. I've worked a lot with people who are homeless and people who are houseless, both abroad and also a lot in Rhode Island too. And it's really wonderful, and it's really heartening to hear this kind of work being done, because, in my experience as well, what I hear is just someone to be there. I was speaking with a friend, earlier today, in the Jewish faith about sitting Shiva, which is this concept of just being present. And, if someone experiences this traumatic event or, chronic trauma, and, if they're lucky enough to even get to a place of support, maybe people rush in with support and are really strong at the beginning, but over time, people trickle back into their own lives. And then they're alone again. And I think what is so amazing about Church Beyond Walls that I'm hearing is that presence, that consistency, to just be present with people, to not judge them, to just be with them, accept them, worship with them, break bread with them, make bread with them. It's really beautiful. And I'm sure a lot of listeners along with me are wanting to be a part of it. And so I'm hoping maybe you can tell us how different parishes can be a part, can get involved and can support you guys, and then also how individuals can be involved.
Excellent. Do you want to jump in, Orville?
Yeah. Well, we have asked parishes to come along and to help us support us, especially in the winter months. Before COVID, we used to bring us soups and such forth to help us provide, so we can provide a warm beverage or something for the people in the park in the winter, because a lot of people in the park in the winter, especially in the winter, the only meal they get, or the only warm hot meal they get, is what you provide them with a cup of soup on a Saturday. So we try to do that for them on a Saturday. So we ask people if they can come out and support us that way. We also ask a person if they can come out and support by donating gloves, hats, socks, especially for the winter months, because those are needed. Most people who is in a park and don't have access to wash their socks, so they need new socks very often when they change their socks. So that's why we ask people to donate socks. We need the gloves because yes, they need to keep them hands warm and their head warm. So we offer those items, and that's all. Parishes can support us. Individuals can support us by just coming out and be a part with us, celebrate with us on Saturdays, help us package up the stuff we bring to the park, and help us to transport stuff to the park.
So are you guys now back to meeting regularly at Burnside Park?
Yes, we meet every Saturday at Burnside Park from 2:00 until we give out our refreshment, and then we transport back to the diocese.
Okay, and if people wanted to get involved more actively, they can show up at Burnside Park in Providence 2 p.m. on a Saturday. But if people wanted to donate, whether that be hats, gloves, socks, any other, hot soups for when you do meals, how would they get in touch? How would they make that donation?
You can contact Pastor Linda, and we make arrangements to receive it at diocese. And so we all be at the diocese between 12 and 1 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So we're preparing ourselves to go in the park.
Okay, so Linda, can you tell us a little bit more about how to contact you and also all the social medias for Church Beyond Walls?
Yes. So we have a Facebook page, Church Beyond the Walls, And we also have, you can reach me at Pastor Linda Forsberg at Gmail or missioner at the Church Beyond the Walls. And before pre-COVID, I worked really hard to develop partnerships with different congregations, but also like we have a group of Brown students, Brown Christian Fellowship, and we had the Canterbury Club at URI, and these other groups of like students or Girl Scouts, all youth groups, all different groups who would take turns coming and helping on Saturdays to prepare the food, bring it down to the park, help, participate in worship, participate in the meal, and then schlep everything back with us and help us put it all away. COVID certainly complicated things, and also, the rules about gatherings, public gatherings. So we had to stop meeting for a brief time in, I think it was March, April, when COVID was just starting and, we couldn't gather. But very early on, we said, well, we're going to still go down there, and I'll just go with, like, we went 2 by 2, just 2 of us. We got out our little red wagon again, and we brought, at first we were doing like bagged lunches and handing those out, and we would just touch in with people, say a prayer, etc. More recently, we resumed worship in July. And so we gather, and per Bishop Nicely's advice, which was great advice, instead of doing food, which gets into all kinds of, sketchy issues with health and safety right now, where he made a large donation to us through his discretionary funds. And we've been doing little gift cards to a local restaurant for people. So we give a care package instead of a meal. And so it has socks and a blessing and some healthy pre-wrapped snacks and a bottle of water and some toiletries, various items that people would need, and this little gift card to a local food place. So that's how we've been doing it since then. I just talked with him, and we're going to be, on special occasions, we're going to try once a month having a local restaurant actually like cater a hot meal, pre-made, individually packaged, following all the restaurant rules. Because I just feel like actually a meal is better for like that sense of community and fellowship.
Right.
A care. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we always need help, like preparing the stuff we're going to bring beforehand. And so we usually meet at noon to do that and then bring everything down. So right now, some communities, even communities that are COVID fearful and say, we don't want to go down, what can we do? I'll tell you, we have lots of communities who are doing fabulous things of like collecting healthy prepackaged snacks like granola bars or little packages of nuts or peanut butter crackers or, water bottles, toiletries, feminine hygiene products, like all the things we take for granted, and as Orville said with winter, hats, gloves, scarves, hand warmers, thermal socks, all kinds of stuff, and then people will take up a collection and then give that to us, and that helps enormously. So there's many, many ways, that people can help, whether they want to come in person or gather stuff that we will share,
That's great. we're getting close to our time here, but I just wanted to thank you both so much for being on the podcast and also for doing such great work that you do with Church Beyond the Walls. And, I hope people out there listening are feeling invigorated and feeling, hopeful that we'll all get through this together, and hopefully we can support each other through that. So I thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for all that you do. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, you too. And we'll put all your contact and social media information in the podcast description.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to Tea Time Theology. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Episcopal Diocese of Rhode Island, and the Right Reverend Nicholas Knisley. We would like to thank Mario Aconde and Jack Zornato for the music, Taylor Wilkie and Ivy Swinsky, our producers, as well as our guest today. Follow us at Tea Time Theology on all social medias.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living